This is my watermelon garden that I plant watermelons in every single summer. And you might be asking, if it's a watermelon garden, why is it completely covered in strawberry plants? We're going to talk about why that is in this video. So we're coming up on the end of spring here, going into summer, and I've already got my watermelon seedlings planted right there in the center of the garden. That's basically a raised bed on top of a raised bed, and I talk more about that in a video specifically about planting the watermelons this season. But in this video, I want to talk about why I got the entire garden covered with these strawberry plants, and that has to start with a story. So 3 years ago, in the middle of the winter, I took a strawberry plant that I was trying to grow hydroponically in my basement, which didn't work out well. I just decided to throw it outside in the garden and see what happens. This whole garden was covered in nothing but leaves from the trees from after the fall. And I planted a strawberry plant, probably no bigger than this, actually probably a lot smaller than this. I didn't really even plant it. I just pulled away some leaves. In the middle of the winter, there was actually snow on the ground covering the leaves. I buried it underneath the leaves, put the leaves back over top, and that was it. Next summer, strawberry plants started growing up in this corner, and then over the next 3 years spread through the entire garden. This was actually more of a happy accident. And the reason is because the strawberry plants are an excellent cover crop. Now, you might think, well, if it's covering the entire garden, it's thieving all the nutrients and it's taking away all the moisture for the other plants, like, hence the watermelons. That's just not really the case. As long as the leaves for whatever you're planting can grow above the leaves from the strawberries, it's not going to choke out the plant or anything like that. I got these blueberry bushes planted over here in the corner, and they're doing just fine. And I've also planted other things since then, and everything still grows in here. It doesn't crowd it out. So what actually the strawberry plants are doing is providing a couple things. Shade to the soil, so when the sun's hitting, it's not baking the soil and pulling all the moisture out of it. It's also choking out, I know this is contrary to what I was just saying, but it's stopping a lot of the unwanted plants growing in the garden. And I had a lot of yellow nutsedge growing in here, no matter what I did. If I tried to use any kind of weed killer, or if I tried to pull them out, they just kept on coming back, and I didn't know what to do about it anymore. I was starting to give up. I let the strawberry plants spread over this entire garden, and I have no more yellow nutsedge growing in here at all. It basically shades out anything that's below it and doesn't really allow much to grow through. Now, if you're going to plant something in here, like a plant that you want to grow, you'd want to pull away the leaves or cut them back and keep them cut back until the leaves from whatever you're planting can grow above it, and then it'll be just fine. But so long as anything that's growing underneath it and can't grow up because of the shade, it's not getting any sun, that'll actually choke it out, sort of. There's quite a few other reasons why I'm leaving these strawberry plants to grow and cover the entire garden as a cover crop. One of those reasons is just the fact that you get to eat the strawberries. If you like strawberries, this is going to produce a lot. This particular plant it's everbearing, so it will produce 2 to 3 times over the summer here, and that's going to produce more strawberries than I can ever eat. Whatever's left over and doesn't get picked actually goes down into the soil below, and that basically becomes food for beneficial insects and worms. The leaves will continue to grow in this and decay. It'll produce new leaves and decay. That also produces food for the worms. So when the worms come up to the surface and they eat that decaying matter, they create earthworm castings. So you never have to use earthworm castings in the garden because the worms do it for you. So it's free. Earthworm castings can be kind of expensive, so why even bother buying it if they're doing the work for you? Another good thing is the fact that there's always a living root in the ground. These will not really die off over winter. There's always a living root in the ground, which is good because it keeps the soil ecologically balanced. So when there's a root in the ground, this particular type of plant, strawberry plants, the roots will promote the growth of mycorrhizal fungi, which is a symbiotic fungus. And you want that to attach to the roots of your plants that you want to keep, because it helps feed the plant more nutrients. The other good thing about keeping a living root in the ground all year round is just the fact that the root keeps the soil loamy and expanded and aerated, so that air can get it down there into the roots, because the roots need oxygen, and then water can get down there really easily as well and drain out, and the entire garden doesn't become soppy from too much water as easily. And if you look down here, if I pull away these plants, right down below, all of this here down here is the decaying matter from the plants themselves. So the leaves and the stems and leftover strawberries, it just keeps building up on the soil, and that creates its own compost. Which brings me to my next point, is that this is no-till. I don't ever have to do anything to this garden. I don't have to bring out the tiller and till it up every spring. The soil is taken care of by itself, just by having these plants here that are living year-round, basically. Now in the winter, these will get all matted down from the snow, and some of the leaves will turn brown, some will stay green, and then in the spring, these things spring right back up, and they're just basically coming right back to life instantaneously. So by leaving all this to grow in here, it basically just makes my garden essentially maintenance-free, and it just takes care of itself. I don't have to do anything except for plant what I want to plant, such as the watermelons in the center there. When those grow outwards, those are going to grow outside of the little planter that I made there. And then the leaves from those watermelon plants are just going to grow kind of above and sit on top of the strawberry leaves, so they're not going to be shaded out. Since it's kind of like a vine, it basically is going to try to grow on top of everything else, and then the melons will just sit down inside the leaves. And I know some people are going to say, well, the melons need sun. That's not true at all. They only need a little bit of light. They don't need sun like they're trying to absorb any sunlight like the leaves do. Before I end the video here, there's one thing I can relate this to make this easier to understand, and that's the fact that some deserts used to be forests. Large forests that covered miles and miles and miles, and they only turned into deserts because of deforestation. The trees got all cut down, and it destroyed the ecosystem. This garden, essentially with all these plants growing in here like this, is a balanced ecosystem. You don't need to do anything to it. It's just an endless cycle that in nature takes care of itself. If you were to pull all these plants out and just have barren soil here in this entire garden, well, then you're going to have to go back and till each year. You're going to have to amend the soil, add compost, try to put earthworm castings in there, do all kinds of stuff to try to bring the soil back to life without living roots in the ground. And you don't need to do any of that stuff. So as long as you got something, a cover crop like this, you're keeping the soil and everything balanced with living roots in the ground and beneficial fungi and insects and decaying matter constantly causing a cycle over and over again. This basically makes the garden take care of itself. It's maintenance free. Why wouldn't you want to do that? Simplify your life. So if you're interested in seeing what happens with my watermelon plants in this garden this season, I will be making a video for that and posting it at the end of the summer. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching.